Hello, everyone. Welcome to our session, Relationship Stewardship, the Science of Managing Up, a series discussion with our speaker, Dr. Vu Pham, hosted by Excel National, which consists of Excel Phoenix, Las Vegas, San Jose, Arizona State Collegiate Chapter, Southern California, and the University of Arizona chapters. My name is Jasper Piracan, a community outreach manager for Excel, and a member of the organization now for 3 years. Outside of Excel, I am a fourth-year medical student with the University of Arizona College of Medicine, Phoenix, and will be earning both my MD and my Master's in Public Health in May 2021 before entering into a psychiatry training program. My role with Excel is to help further the Excel mission and to work to get new members aboard while engaging with the community. I connect with others on how Excel is a great way to develop skills for an ever-changing world. Excel is shaped around the concept of learning by leading. Since our beginnings, we have sought to provide interested community members with opportunities to hone their leadership skills and cultural awareness through experiences that we are able to organize. This includes Dragon Boat teams, volunteer events with various nonprofits, and our annual Dynamics of Leadership conference. In line with our vision of a world where everyone has the skills and opportunity to lead, events such as these fall in line with our mission statement. We seek to be the proving ground for Asian American professionals, forging leaders of tomorrow through professional development, cultural awareness, community service, and mentorship. We continue that mission through this event tonight. We will talk about developing the ability to be your own personal reaction coach in order to support more beneficial relationships for everyone. Now, I have the pleasure of introducing our speaker for this event. Dr. Vu Pham, the chair of Elevate, works with dozens of organizations from the Fortune 500 to government and nonprofit agencies. Elevate is a partnership with the University of Arizona, California, Irvine's Mirage School of Business, UC San Diego's Rady School of Management, UC Riverside, California State University, Fullerton, UC Office of the President Mesa, and Spectrum Knowledge. The Elevate program boosts organizational performance and strategic effectiveness through interactive training and data-driven research. Dr. Pham and his work have been featured on national and international multimedia venues, such as CNN, MSNBC, the Associated Press, Fortune, Voice of America, the Los Angeles Times, KSCI International Television, Diversity Incorporated, Strategic Innovators, Asian Week, and Radio Free Asia. He has given keynote speeches on numerous occasions and presented at many conferences internationally and has written for both academic and mainstream publications. Beyond his professional work, Dr. Pham has participated in generating over $1 million for nonprofit groups and donates many hours to them. This session will guide you through an internal process to shift towards smoother interpersonal interactions. Shortly, we'll take a look on how to unlock the potential to navigate delicate social situations with increased awareness. Before I turn it over to Dr. Pham, if you have any questions for him about his presentation or about Excel in general, please type it in the comment field on this live video and we'll try to address it all. Now, without further ado, let's all welcome Dr. Vu Pham.
Wonderful, thank you. And if we can get the presentation up, that'd be great. This is called Relationship Stewardship. And this is going to talk about how to manage up and really have a good sense of, people often follow orders. They listen to what their manager says because, look, reality is your boss determines your fate, right? They can fire you, hire you, retire you, whatever it is. So we often look at that as a way of looking up rather than managing up. And the reality is you can easily manage up. So as we're doing this, I also want you to manage this up to this conversation. Don't just look at me as a one-sided speaker. I want you to actually be interactive because we're going to have a couple of opportunities for you to be interactive. I know if you joined me last week, I really want to get audience comment, participation, and insights because this is actually what makes it rich. So as we're doing this, is a good chance for you to practice. Could you, in the chat box, express appreciation for Excel please thank them in the chat box, and they're going to forward me all of your comments. So I don't get to see them. I'm actually on a separate adjacent platform, but they're going to forward everything you say to me. So please thank Excel. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for joining us and really helping the APA community. So let's go through relationship stewardship, the science of managing up. Let's go to the next slide. And what I want you to see is that 70% of the changes in employee engagement is really the manager's responsibility. So when you actually think about it, management has your fate in their hands, right? And according to research, that's 70% of it. So the reality is most of us only really have 30% full control over change. And so at one level, you could say, well, wait a minute. That means the manager actually determines our fate. Yes, they do. They truly do, because who gives you your paycheck? Well, it comes from your manager. You could say it comes from the company, but your manager is the one who has control over your future. So when you look at it that way, the manager then, by managing relationships with one person, you can influence 70% of your work life. And what I really want you to think about is that, okay, is that most of us think, oh, large corporations, let's say, are complex, right? Oh, there could be 10,000 workers, 100,000, 200,000 employees, sometimes more, right? So therefore it's complex. You might feel that you're not in control, but in actuality, I want you to completely reverse it. Is if one person determines 70% of your fate, are you actually spending 70% of your effort really making sure that relationship is properly stewarded? And that's where I think we tend to go wrong. We tend to think, oh my gosh, there's so much complexity, so much bureaucracy, so many people, so many clients to deal with, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, that's all true. Reality is there's only one person in the end who determines your highest fate in the organization at 70%, and that's your manager. So that's why I really want to emphasize this, okay? And for those of you who are thinking about management, so here's an interesting correlation too. It's a different correlation, but what it is actually about only 30% want to be managers. So actually 70% don't even want to be management at all. So I'm going to add bonus data here. About roughly 30%, it varies by survey, but only 30% want to be managers. And if you actually think about it, most companies, the management structure consists of about 6 to 10% is usually an average for very large companies. Most, smaller companies, of course, that's going to be more distorted because you don't have, if you only have a startup of 3-5 people, obviously they might all manage something, right? So, but when you're talking larger scale structures, companies that can range in the tens or hundreds of thousands, when you actually think about it, only 30% want to be managers. So the majority don't even aspire to be management. And of those, about 6 to 8% are really management. And roughly about 1% are executives. So actually in a major Fortune 500, let's say, about 1% are executives. That includes junior executives. And only when you get to your senior executives, that's about roughly 0.25%, give or take, of course. These are just rough gauges. All right, so the reality is most people don't want to manage. It is tough managing. And for those of you who have ever managed people, I'll bet your hardest year was your first year, because that's when you're learning how to manage. We actually tend to promote people, based on their technical performance or as an individual contributor. But often most first-line managers and first-year managers are not properly equipped. They don't go to management training. And if anything, they're promoted based on what? Technical skills and performance as an individual contributor, not always by what we will label soft skills, right? And the irony is I hate calling it soft skills only, because it's really essential skills. Those are the ones that are more essential than the technical skills. Technical skills come and go, but the people skills and essential skills, critical thinking, strategic thinking, relationship stewardship, as in this case, will exist. So if we can have the next slide, then what I want you to then think about is then in the chat box, so I'm going to give you some time, go ahead and list ways to defuse or relax a tough situation with your boss. And here's how you're going to do it. If you could just put defuse, and then just give one tactic, and you can type as many as you'd like. And then on the reverse side, can you also give examples? And you could say, escalate, right? So escalate, and then find a way to anger your boss, make it worse, make it tougher for yourself, whatever it is. To be interactive. We, as Asians, are stereotyped for not being as interactive, and I want to break that stereotype, right? So, and I want you to honor Excel too. They spend a lot of time engaging and really putting this together. So the more data we have in the Facebook Live chat box, that means the more you're going to give information to others to use, right? So as I'm going through this, what is one tactic to defuse? So go ahead and put that. And what is one tactic to escalate and make it worse? So go ahead and put that through. We have, for example, I'll give one example, which is that someone put in the chat box here, which is one way to defuse is to acknowledge and show empathy, right? So when you think about it, folks, even bosses have a bad day. And I've asked this over and over and over again with so many managers, and I'll say, give me a rough percentage of what percentage of your team actually goes up and actually comes when you're having a bad day to say, how can I help? How can I take on more work? Because most people don't want to take on more work. How can I make things better for you? So when you actually look at it, acknowledging and empathizing with your boss, that's why they say it's lonely at the top. Most managers, actually, it's counterintuitive. You think, oh, they're authority figures. Everybody knows who they are. Yes, they are. But they actually don't say much. So if anything, we actually look at the bosses, it gets lonelier. People, someone else put listening here, right? So that means we often don't listen to the boss. We actually often don't empathize. We think, oh, they're the boss. They have it great. No, actually, most bosses deal with employee drama, actually, and employee problems, employees not coming in on time, employees not getting their work, employees doing things late. Because if everyone managed their own situation, you wouldn't need managers. And I will give you an actual personal example. In our organization, we actually have no managers, actually. So we actually, if you ask any of my team members, what we do is we actually ask, hey, who's your manager? And there is one answer. There's a technical answer, which is me, but there's a real answer, which is myself. So they actually self-manage, actually. So that's what I want you to start thinking about, right? Is if people all did their work, then it'd be easy. You wouldn't even need managers. So what happened was I used to have managers under me, never replaced them, even eliminated that layer. We have zero middle management layers. People all self-manage. It's wonderful. But if you think about it, that's not normal. Normally, managers deal with a lot of things, some necessary, some unnecessary. So they go through a lot of stress. And if you actually look at it, look at it all the way at the top. Managers at the presidential level, so that's the highest level, right, of our country, executive leadership, right? Presidents age twice as fast. Easy way to look at Obama, I always say, right? President Obama came in with a head of black hair. He left, not by the end of 8 years, even 4 years, his first term, by the end of his first couple years, about 2 years, he had almost a full head of gray hair because the stress ages you. So I want you to think about emphasizing that, is emphasizing listening, emphasizing empathy, emphasizing acknowledgement that, look, management actually has it rough. And if you make it easy, you become the boss's ally, and guess what? They're going to give you the best assignment. So it's a win-win. So that's one way of thinking about how to manage up, okay? And I think we lost the presentation. I don't see it for some reason. So if we can get it back up, that'd be great. Thank you. All right. So what I want you to do is then look at ways to escalate it, right? So think about escalation, okay? Some ways could be, for example, to be dismissive, right? I think, oh, well, you're the boss, you take care of it. Well, remember, bosses suffer from all the data and decision-making that you don't always have access to, okay? So actually, when you think about it, there are plenty of ways to escalate. Another way to escalate is to ignore the problem. Okay, so we always think, oh, that's not my problem, it's the boss's problem, right? What often happens is a lack of managing up to just leave it to the boss can actually be worse. And I will tell you, this is where even actually a lot of Asians, we tend to suffer, because we actually are low conflict often. If you look on communication styles, and we tend to be more collectivist, we tend to say, okay, my boss tells me something, I do it. I don't argue with my boss as much, whatnot. We index that way. Look at Asia. And then so carried over here, a lot of Asian Americans, even not just immigrants, but second, third, fourth generation, you start to see it. It's actually inherited culturally. I don't mean genetically. I mean the way we teach our kids and the way we behave and model. So what actually happens is when we don't act and we are passive, what happens is the boss often interprets that as what? We don't care. We're disengaged. And guess what? If we're not as engaged, you can't be promoted. So in other words, we think, oh, if I work hard, the boss will see it. Actually, the boss doesn't see how hard you work. The boss sees the results. And by the way, management is not about hard work. Management is actually about getting things done and maintaining relationships with those around you. So just to give you a sense, again, we've eliminated middle management in our organization. And you know what? People do their work. We have fewer meetings, but they still manage and maintain the relationship. And that is what's important, actually. So it's not just about, working hard, and it's also not about schmoozing either. That's not it at all. It's actually about maintaining the relationship. And what maintains a relationship with your manager? Ensuring them you get the job done, ensuring them you get it done well, ensuring them you're delivering results. Do not confuse that with working hard and long hours. If anything, I work fewer hours now. Our team works fewer hours. We are about 40% the headcount of what we were 3 years ago. We actually get more than 2 times as much done. So that means if you think about it, 5 to 6 times return, right, on productivity. So we eliminated 2/3 of our workforce, but we became more than double the productivity. That's at least 5 times, if not 6 or more times. So a lot of it is managing up. That does not mean more meetings, by the way. That does not mean more schmoozing. If anything, I've gotten rid of, one of the managers who over schmoozed and didn't get much done, right? So schmoozing does not get you far at all times. It does with some people, but they usually don't see it. It's results. And so what happens is if they manage my expectations, say, hey, Vu, can I get this done at this point? My answer is yes, absolutely. What actually happens is I have a napping rule that actually I take a nap almost every day. My staff can take a nap almost any time. They just need to tell me I'm not going to be available for these 2-3 hours. They might have a dentist appointment, whatever. We've never denied anyone in our entire 15-year history as an organization any of that. Because what is it? It's managing up. It's not schmoozing. It's just saying, hey, I got something personal. Hey, my child is sick today. Go take care of it. Hey, I'm sick today. Hey, I'm feeling a little down today. It's a rough day. As long as they get the work done, it does not matter. So, and they do get the work done. So when you have a mind shift, it's not about working longer hours as managing your boss. So therefore your boss, guess what? Doesn't need to micromanage you. It's on you. So then if you manage those expectations, it actually frees up your time. So your boss doesn't have to say, hey, what are you doing? You tell your boss proactively what you're doing and how you're managing your time. And they shoot me a quick email, sometimes over Skype. That's it. So if we can get the next slide, I want you to start to think about this. We've already filled this out, right? But we can send this to you. It's a little worksheet, right? How to escalate and de-escalate things, right? I know we've already put in the chat box, so let's go to the next one. Okay. And I want you to think here. 1 out of 10 people has the talent to manage. If you actually think about it, that's very consistent with how many percentage of managers there are. 6 to 10%. And most major companies are managers. So that means this data is consistent. If you actually look at management skill and acumen, again, 3 out of 10 people want to be managers, right? Remember we said 30% want to be managers. And of those, about 1/3 have the talent. So technically, if you think about it, that's very consistent with companies saying 6 to 10% as management. A lot of people don't want to make decisions. Well, they shouldn't be managing, because if you're going to make a decision, some people will love you, some people will not like you. That's it. Okay. So it works the same way with managing up. Even if you don't want to be the boss and the manager, your goal is, well, manage your boss with yourself. You don't even have to manage other staff members and team members. That one boss has about 70% of your fate. I mean, technically 100% if you want to say that. They can let go of you, they can promote you, they can hire you, whatever it is, but it's not a lot of work, yet it has 70% of your fate, according to the first slide. So let's go to the next slide. When you actually look at this, then think of it like a thermometer, okay? If you look at the top, if you escalate it, most people think, oh, that harsh boss who says it like it is, sometimes, you know, they're a little rough. That's the blow your top boss, okay? In the red, you know, they're more combative, they're more aggressive, right? Now, let's not look at green yet. Let's look at blue at the bottom at a thermometer. Actually, sometimes it's worse to have a boss that's too cold, or a relationship where you're too cold with your boss. Here's why. Remember what we mentioned, sometimes it's better to actually confront the situation, often it is, than if a boss gives you the cold shoulder, you give your boss the cold shoulder. You don't even know why your boss is upset. Your boss doesn't know why you're upset. And sometimes we get fake smiles, right? That's why if you actually look at it on the intercultural communication scale, most Asians compared to most European based cultures, and Americans too, so tend to be what is considered low conflict, okay? Which means that we will tendency, and this is, again, I don't want to stereotype because that's not 100% of us, you know, I'm considered higher conflict, right? I just say it like it is, and my team knows not to take it so personally, that I'm talking about the work, I'm not talking about who they are as people, right? So I'll just say, oh, hey, I think we need to change this, we need to change that, right? It doesn't mean they're bad people, it just means something needs to be changed, that's it. So I say this because when we're actually low conflict, that's worse, because there's a conflict brewing, there's a disagreement, it's just never been stated. So we might be upset for different things. Simple example, okay? If, you know, you think about it, one day your boss comes in upset, snaps at you, just kind of says something, maybe is a little dismissive or even grunts. Look, they might have just had a death in the family. They might have just, you know, gotten through a tough argument with the spouse. Maybe they're, you know, and they decided to go through a divorce last night. You don't know, right? Maybe they find out they had cancer, all right? And they're going through that. So, and they're playing all this in their heads. So that's why when we said early, how do you de-escalate with your boss? Empathize, listen. It's not about doing more work. More work probably won't even help you, actually, because I don't think your boss is thinking about that. And think about you. You're probably the same. If you are going through a divorce, cancer, death in the family, any of those, I mean, you know, might be small, could be big, but no one, you know, just automatically assumes you're going through that, right? I mean, that's just not typical, but you never know. So what happens is that too cold is actually harder to deal with than too hot. It's actually counterintuitive. So we tend to put too much emphasis on high conflict, but the reality is low conflict is worse. And I'm going to tell you, it's actually correlated with marriage. So you'll like this. You know, I first saw this data in, I think it was the late 90s and early 2000s. And so it overturned common conception, which is that marriages or that lead to divorces are often not actually low conflict. I'm sorry, high conflict, right? So we think that couples that argue a lot tend to get divorced more. Actually, it's not. It's actually couples that don't argue as much, that actually don't communicate as much, that actually get divorced, and that's more 60-40. So if you look at the bottom there, the too cold, that usually represents 60% of marriages. The top represents about 40% of marriages that lead to divorce. Now, healthy relationships are in that solution zone where the only way to solve a problem is to know there's a problem. You can't solve this if you don't know what this is, right? So that's what it is. So if you don't know what the problem is, you can't solve it. So I say that because that's in marital couples. It's the same as in work relationships too, right? That we often don't state what the problem is. And as Asian Americans and Asians, especially in Asia, we're not rewarded for that. We're actually taught, you know, the nail that sticks out, right, gets hammered down. That's a translation. We are taught different types of behaviors about, look, don't rock the boat. don't say this, you must be polite. I mean, think about it even this way. A lot of Confucian-based East Asian cultures, for example, if someone has you over at their house and they say, are you hungry? Do you want food or do you want water? You're supposed to say no. Even if you're thirsty as heck, even if you are hungry, you're supposed to say no, and you can only say yes on the third time they ask. If you say yes on the first time, that's considered rude. If you say yes on the second time, it's considered rude. If you say yes, you can after the third time. Think about it this way. In the workplace, if I asked you, would you like a promotion, and you said no, and I'm your boss, think about how stupid that is. I'd say, okay, great. I'm going to move on to the next person who wants a promotion. Oh, would you want the special project? No. Well, guess what? I'll give it to the person who will say it. And I will tell you data, which is this. There's an organization that actually did a survey like this. I won't mention which one. It's a Fortune 200 company. I think they were Fortune 100 at the time. But they asked, of all the ethnic groups, how many of you would want a bonus level position? That's not a management position. It's a high potential position where you can earn more money and have more visibility. And that can be as an individual contributor. You could be, for example, HR, engineering, finance. You don't have to be a manager within each one of those, but you are being groomed for management, but you don't have to take management position, and you could still make a bonus, right? They call them bonus level positions at the time. Here's the thing. Almost every ethnic group, including women, I think the lowest was 89%, 90 something percent said yes, right? So 89 to as high as 96% said yes. Asians, 66% said yes. Folks, they're offering us more money. We don't necessarily have to be managers, and we're not even saying we're interested in it. So that is a problem. And then they asked, of you, how many of you actually, when you're identified for these positions, actually applied for them? Now, I know this is a decade ago, but I don't think it's shifted that much. 1 out of 10 actually applied. So of the 2/3 that were identified for these high performance positions, only 1/3 did that. So when you actually look at it, that's really a big problem. And as one of you said, right, comment from the audience here, wow, I didn't know low conflict is worse. Yes, because you can't solve a conflict if you don't know what it is. I'd rather know what the conflict is. So in other words, I'd rather have a tank charge at me, because at least I know how to, take down a tank, right? Take its treads, do this, avoid the tank, just get out of the way. A sniper's harder to deal with than a tank. Think about war. You don't even know who hit you, if it's friendly fire, unfriendly fire. You don't see it coming. You're just walking down. And yeah, so think about even in flat out war, right? Snipers are worse than tanks. Think about animals, right? I'd rather see a lion and avoid it than see a scorpion, or not see a scorpion that stings me and kills me. So when you actually think about it, we often hurt ourselves. And so replace, can I have a glass of water, and you say no, with, can I have a promotion? I mean, it sounds so stupid when I put it that way, and it actually is. That's also why us Asians, we study hard, and we don't get promoted because we don't promote ourselves. So I'm going to give you a statement I say in all of my classes when we do deep dive classes. If you want a promotion, folks, don't outthink it. Oh, what do you do to get promotion? I work hard. I'm like, I don't. I even tell my clients flat out, I'm telling you right now, I take naps almost every day when I'm not traveling. All right. Even when I am traveling and I get away in a hotel, I'll take a nap. All right. My clients know. All right. I've got some who are on Facebook friends. I post pictures of me napping on my couch, and they're like, okay, because I get my work done when I promise it. That's it. And so here's what's simple, folks. My clients know I take naps. All right. Because that's how I think of ideas, and I can work hard. As you know, if you work hard, but you're exhausted because you're not sleeping enough, you're not that useful anyway. You're just logging in hours, and you know what's worse than absenteeism? Presenteeism. It means you're sitting and present physically, but not mentally, emotionally, whatever it is. You're showing presence. It's butts in seats, but not getting much done. I'm either there or I'm not. So here's the thing. It's not working harder. The root word of promotion, by the way, is to promote. So we as Asians often tend to get mad at someone who we call brown nosers, who knows the boss well, who knows others. You know what? No, they built a relationship. While we're working hard and working extra hours, no one knows, because we're sitting in our dungeons, locked up in our cubes or whatever. No one recognizes, no one knows how hard we work. All they see is the end result. So I want you to focus on results, and therefore low conflict. Here's what makes it worse. Conflict comes from problems. I'm not talking drama. I'm talking, you might have clients have conflicts, customers have conflicts. If you can solve their conflicts or their challenges, you will actually be paid more. You will actually be promoted. So your goal is to promote yourself, promote context, have other people promote you. I mean, challenges. It's counterintuitive, but if you don't know any of this happens, how can I promote you if I don't even know who you are? When the root word of promotion is to promote. So if you have someone who works hard, but they're not promoting themselves because you don't know who they are, by definition, you can't promote them because you don't even know who they are. So therefore, being recognized, and that's where we use the word recognition and promotion, is more powerful than hard work. And I will tell people that. And I will tell clients, I don't bill them by the hour. Here's why. Because it incentivizes me to spend an hour with them. If I could solve their problem in 5 minutes, they pay me for whatever they pay me for. And they don't want to spend an hour with me. They'd rather spend 5 minutes with me because I can solve their problem in 5 minutes. They want to be there 5 minutes. They get 55 minutes back. I get 55 minutes back. We can go do more. So when you actually add this all up, we equate hard work and promotion, and they're not even the same thing. The root word of promotion is to promote. So it's all about relationships. It's all about that understanding. And this is the counterintuitive part. I don't know why Asians still believe in working hard. And by the way, I will tell you actually, a couple managers over the years that I have said, you know, I think I need to transition you out of this company. I've warned them for working too hard and working their employees too hard. And I flat out tell them, why are you working so hard? Well, because you know, I'm getting more done. I'm like, no, you're not getting more done. They're burning themselves out. They're burning their teams out. And that's it. So guess what? Not only do we have fewer team members, we sleep more and nap more. We actually don't work as many long hours as we did a few years ago. And people just submit whatever they say, okay, I just need this much time and this deadline, and I'll get it done for you. Great. Go take off. If you're working at a beach, and this is not pandemic, by the way, folks, we went 100% virtual a year ago before the pandemic. So this is not post-COVID. This is pre-COVID. I let them work from home. I'm like, I don't want you to commute. I want you to work in your PJs, whatever, as long as, look, I even tell them, don't even turn on your cameras, because here's the thing, folks, I don't need to see them. I just need to see the results. That's it. So I've worked with people. We probably turn on the cameras once, twice a year. I have people I've never shaken hands with because I've never physically met them. I have people I trust. So that's managing the relationship. Do not think of that as schmoozing. Do not think of that as working hard. It's managing results. And trust comes from getting things done, the integrity, and that you can do it. And if you can't do it, it's okay, right? There are plenty of days where I've been sick, others have been sick, and they're like, I'm not even gonna log in today, I'm exhausted. Please do. That's it. So I can tell you in our entire history, never denied a sick day, never denied a vacation day, and always given flex time when needed, as long as the work gets done. That's the art of relationship stewardship. We actually do that, and there's science and a process of this. So if we can get the next slide, I'm gonna give you context here. So when you use the chat function, okay, you're gonna get a case study. And I want you to think about this case study and think about what Rashida would do. Okay, so if we can go to the next page. So Rashida's the protagonist in this. All right, so if you can all read that slide there. And what should Rashida, there's only two questions. What should she do and what should she not do? Okay, so if you could put in the chat box, do, colon, and have an action or two, and then not do. All right, so I'm gonna give you a minute, read this through, and then what's at least one action, and you can put multiple that she should do, and what's at least one thing she should not do, if not more. And I got one question I'll definitely answer. So Betty, if you could make sure you ask me that during the Q&A, and it's a really important question. Okay, and you can start putting in any actions and do actions, right? Put do and put don't do. Okay, so hopefully, as you're putting in the do's and the don't do's, a question came up. This sounds good, but how do you convey this to your manager, right? So how do I tell my manager, hey, start thinking like this? Ask some simple questions, okay? One, do you want to manage me more or do you want results? What's more important to you? Just tell them that, right? Ask them that. And here's what's interesting. Who wants that? Do you want more meetings or do you want results, right? So your end goal is to get them to think about results. You know, hey, what are you really doing? They're always going to give you some PowerPoint with goals, with, you know, here's what our outcome, here's what we need to do for our project. But the reality is this, they want results. And often they confuse results with meetings. They confuse results with spending more time with you, right? They confuse results with actually, you know, just sharing information that may or may not be relevant to the result, okay? So what we've done is we looked at this, and this is actually eliminated meetings. You know, we have 0 standing meetings in our organization, 0. We have no standing monthly, weekly, quarterly meetings, 0. We meet when we have a purpose, okay? And that's the key. So when you actually look at it for a minute, the key is to think about how managers can actually do much more with doing less. You don't want them to work so hard. Your goal is, do you want this, which is the result? Do you want a happy customer, blah, blah, blah? Or do you want to look after, the opposite is, what's the opposite? More meetings, more micromanagement, although you don't want to use the word micromanage, your manager will be upset, but do you want to spend more time with me? Are you more interested in, you know, getting the work done in a flexible manner, or does it have to get done in these exact hours? What is more important to you? All this stuff. And they could say yes, yes, and yes, but the reality is a lot of it's counterproductive, right? So your goal is to push them toward that results. All right. Okay. And, you know, one thought here that someone put, Rashida should let Laura know her expectations, right? Exactly. Again, this is communicating alignment, right? Just like you want to know what someone's challenges or problems are, conflict, whatnot. It's the same thing, okay? And it is simple asking Laura questions. And that's what I say, it's the same thing by asking your manager. Replace Laura with your manager. Ask these questions and you'll be shocked at the cognitive dissonance, right? Inexperienced managers, and there are plenty of them, you know, and not as good managers, as you saw, 1 out of 10 managers who really have good talent, is actually their goal, the more they have to manage. See, this is counterintuitive. They're called a manager, but the more they have to manage, the harder their job gets for them and for their employees. So if you actually think about it, it's completely counterintuitive. A good manager shouldn't have to manage, and a good employee should not have to be managed. So if you can proactively manage this relationship with your boss, ask them questions, then he or she will actually start to give you their expectations, and then triangulate further. Okay, start to ask, drill down and ask questions. Hey, I just want to follow up, blah, blah, blah. The more specific you get, the more important it is. Okay, I don't mean down to the details and the weeds, but there is going to be a point where it's pretty simple, actually. Okay, yes, someone put here, looks like Laura needs to manage her time. That is absolutely true. As Rashida, you need to say, hey, Laura, how can I help you? Right? That's what you should do, rather than acting right away, right? A lot of it is just investigating, listening, being empathic. Okay, can we get the next slide? And then, so we've already answered some of this. So let's go to the next slide. And again, you know, if we were to do this, normally we'd do it as a class, so you'd have this as a handout, right? And you could put 3 actions on what to do and what to not do. So let's go to the next slide. If you think about this, then most people don't want their boss's job. because managing is tough. Remember what I said about, roughly 70% don't want to be managers? This is very similar, a different study than what I'm citing, but it roughly correlates to roughly about 70-30. 70% don't want don't want a management job because it is tough. So can we get the next slide? And here's a study by researchers where they actually had monitoring badges, right, at call center teams, and they monitored these areas, right, voice, body language, right, communication, and outside of formal meetings, they discovered this. Okay, so beyond the meeting itself, this is how employees really start to react. So if we get the next slide, okay, so 20% decrease in handling low performing teams or at call center. So the lowest performing teams actually improve the most. Obviously, they're already low performing, so they're going to improve higher than the high performing teams. So what this means is this: is that there is less time dedicated or needed, to customers because problems resolve themselves faster. So what that meant is when the employees are less stressed, the customer actually has their problem solved faster. Why? Probably because the employee's listening better, the employee's calmer, and the customers can feel it. That classic study that showed that when that actually customers can tell when a customer service agent is smiling or not smiling. Oh, you could definitely tell. Okay, so I want you to think about that actually when we decrease stress in the employees, it actually decreases also the time it takes, which means you can either talk to more customers on the one hand, and minimally, what does that mean? You probably have customers who are satisfied sooner because it doesn't take you as long. Instead of taking 20 minutes, right? You've taken 16 minutes, for example, if you look at this data. So that's a lot, all right? And guess what? The longer a customer is often on the phone, the more angry they probably are too, and upset minimally. So that means the longer you keep them on, the more they start to fume and get angry, right? Whereas if you solve it faster, not only does it save you time, and it decreases your stress because people are actually less likely to get upset. Okay, let's go to the next slide. And that's the cost. And this is an old study, by the way. So if you look, this study is almost a decade old, 15 million, you'd probably double that to 30 million. So of 25,000 call center employees at a bank, that's 30 million in savings by today's dollars, right? This is 15 million in 2012. So just roughly double it, okay? All right, next slide. So now you save money. And then overall, it's 8%, increased handling, right? So 20% increase for low performing. High performing teams are already pretty high performing, so they're not going to increase as much. So this is about an average, okay? So 8% improvement, that's quite a bit, all right? If you have 25,000 employees, you can imagine increasing 8% of their productivity. That adds up. All right, next slide. So 50% of greater of healthcare expenditures to workers, toward, or high stress ones, I should say. So therefore, if you think about it, if you decrease stress, you'd save about a third, okay, of healthcare costs. So now there's a healthcare cost, but hold on, it's not just healthcare costs, it's real costs. It's someone's life, folks. It's someone's mother, father, brother, sister, right, son or daughter. So it's not just the money, it's their life. So the more you could treat them in a humane way by giving them more flexibility, trust, and managing that, the better. All right, let's go to the next one. And so this is what we've already talked about. The tool that you saw is right here. It's called the bossometer, right? If you could lower health risks and increase productivity, we're going to take this thermometer, and it actually has a name, by the way. It's called the bossometer. So next slide. And it's the bossometer. If we could have the next slide, that'd be great. The bossometer is a tool to help manage an unpredictable boss, okay? And don't worry, you can get this later. What's the value? We talked about this. So let's go to the next slide. And this is where I'll wrap up with the bossometer. This is a tool, we talked about the hot zone, which is red, and the blue zone, which is blue, or the cold zone. Your goal is to be down to the green zone. And normally we do this activity, but for interest of time, I'll do it for you so that you could see. So for example, you'd place each of these in a hot versus cold. So fighting back, oh, that's red, right? That's escalating and increasing. Sometimes you need to do it, but usually that escalates. If you look at the next one, right? Go immediately to HR. That's likely in the short term blue, because your boss doesn't know you're doing this. You're doing it behind their back. It makes a relationship colder. Then HR has to come and be more objective. It may lead to red behaviors by your boss. So that could be a simultaneous, it starts off blue, but it could be simultaneously red and blue. So HR is now involved in everything. Not good, right? And then third is make a note of patterns. That's blue. That's horrible. And what this is what you're doing is you're actually making it worse. Showing gratitude or feedback, green, right? You're communicating, showing what the challenge is and whatnot. And then the other two, of course, situational awareness is also green, right? Asking questions, being more empathic, listening. And finally, suffer in silence, blue, definitely blue. That means you're suffering. Your boss may not know it. You're working hard. A lot of Asian Americans suffer. So to wrap with the bossometer, I want you to think about that it's a Goldilocks scenario. You don't want too red, but a lot of Asians, I would argue, actually are too blue, actually. It makes it worse by not confronting it. We tend to be low conflict. And with that, I want you to start focusing on green. So I'll stop here. And if there's any questions, feel free to put it in the chat box. That would be wonderful. And if I missed any questions in the chat box, please let me know. So Jasper, if I missed anything, definitely let me know, okay?
Will do. So as we're waiting for some folks to type in some questions, I had one for you. And you talked about the relationship and speaking with your manager and attempting to gauge where they're at in that bossometer. My question is, what's your advice for monitoring and identifying our own emotional state when we're entering into these kinds of conversations with a potentially unpredictable manager?
Yes, and that's a great question. This is where empathy makes a lot of sense. Now, I know we can't read everyone's minds, but think about it this way. Most humans are going to react one way or another similarly, right? If you see someone who has a problem with you, but they avoid it, you wouldn't like it, right? I wouldn't like it either. We want to know what the problem is so we can solve it. So treat your boss that way too, right? Classic golden rule and platinum rule, right? Golden rule is do unto others as you would to them, and then platinum is treat others as they want to be treated, right? So both gold and platinum, give it to them. And it's actually quite simple. Most of us are human and we want that. I don't think anyone would say, hey, don't tell me what the problem is. I don't want to deal with it, and let it fester. So it's a good question, Jasper. And it's so simple, right? But a lot of people don't do it. So I don't know why.
From my experience, it's also something very hard to practice. Take some honesty with yourself, and that's hard for a lot of people to do. So one more question before we wrap up the Q&A that I wanted to ask you as well. With the strains of working with a potentially unpredictable boss, as well as putting this into use in each of our own careers, how do we work to avoid letting those kinds of conversations spill over into our home lives more than it should?
Okay. So first of all, it actually is self-cleansing. If you solve this with your boss, you shouldn't have to bring it home. So first of all, that's being direct, right? Because it's already resolved. So if you show the boss, hey, literally show this tool to your boss, show it to your teams and say, hey, why don't we use this, right? And we should be in green rather than red or blue, right? So the bottom line is, how do we keep it green? How do we keep it monitored? I actually had a team, they actually joked, they actually printed out the bossometer and they used it. And actually, sometimes when the boss was in a bad mood, they'd actually show it to one another quietly and say, oh gosh, boss is in red right now. Or we don't know what it is. Give her some space, give her time. And they quietly did it because they didn't want to confront her. Hey, bossometer, you're doing this. So they quietly do it. And guess what? It made them all more empathic toward their boss. And one person said, oh my gosh, the boss is having a grumpy day. They'd show it very quietly, and they'd all help the boss actually quietly and in subtle ways. And then of course, later on they joke with the boss once things get better. But sometimes you do need to show it, but not always in real time. And the boss appreciated that, by the way. Okay.
All about tact, always about tact.
Absolutely.
So in the interest of time and to make sure that we're respectful of everyone else's time this evening, we'd like to move forward and conclude this Q&A part of the session. And I wanted to give you the opportunity to talk about an exciting event that Elevate is hosting.
Absolutely. So we have Elevate, one of our core partners, the University of California, Irvine's Mirage School of Business. So we are offering a certificate with UC Irvine, and this is done remotely because we have to because of COVID. And it's a program for Asian Pacific Americans about influence and really interpersonal savvy. And you could see here, it's pretty straightforward. There's only 3 evenings per class. So Sphere of Influence is 3 evenings, and it's in October. And Leverage, which is also 3 evenings in November. Then this is actually interactive. It's in a small group. And what makes this class unique? It's part of a larger We Imagine series, right? It's not Reimagine, it's We Imagine. The co-authorship, so it's not just sitting and listening to a class. You're going to get a short assignment to interview an executive or two, and we're going to credit everyone with co-authorship in one of our publications, whether it's digital or our actual book. We actually have an Asian Upward book. You cannot buy it. It's the most comprehensive book for Asian American leaders. We only give it, it's an institutional copy. It's full color. You'll get a copy of that as well. And so you cannot even buy it anywhere. And then, you know, we're going to co-create the class together. We have a syllabus ready and all that, of course. And so Stephanie is an executive co-teaching it with me. And she's an executive at Gilead. She's had experience in the hospitality industry as well as gaming. And now, you know, is a executive over at Gilead, right? They're making remdesivir, right, to deal with COVID. So all I'll say about that is, this is the one thing I want you to do. Asians, we're so good at paying out of pocket. I want you to not have to pay out of pocket. The reason this is done through UC Irvine's Mirage School of Business is it should be eligible in most companies through tuition assistance. Most major companies, your tuition assistance policy should cover this. So all you have to do is go to asianupward.com and you could see it. It's also on UCI's website, but asianupward.com is easier. Go on the homepage, you'll see this leadership certificate, or click on leadership certificate. And you don't have to pay right away. You could even pay 1 or 2 days before, but you can sign up well in advance to hold your space. I would encourage you to do that. And it's limited to you know, a classroom size, so it's not going to be a large class. And then the other part is, it's different than a certificate on your resume. It's, you know, we're going to be interactive and co-create to co-author. So you don't have to, we're writing the work, but you're actually contributing by doing case studies, and you get to interview an executive. And then the final thing I'll say is, because it's tuition assistance, Asians, we're not good at asking. We tend to pay too much. We want you to incur zero debt, right? Companies are willing to pay and invest in you. Most Asians, just like what we said with the bonus level positions in that other case study, most Asians never ask for these. So if you work for a major company, check your tuition assistance benefit. This should cover it. So that's basically it. And go to asianupward.com. You can read up on this, get more details, and go on the link on there, and it'll take you to UC Irvine's Mirage School of Business, and you can enroll. And the beautiful thing, you don't have to put money up front. Okay, you could pay later, but the beautiful thing is, folks, it's time for us to ask, right? And let's make a movement out of this. Let's really build more Asian American leaders, deep dive, and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Vu, for talking to us about that exciting opportunity that we have coming up in October. And now I'd like to take some time to discuss some of Excel's upcoming events as well. So on August 13th, we'll be having another online event with Kalika Yap, who is a Filipino-American entrepreneur, founder, CEO, and author. Join us in the conversation on understanding one's relationship with money, as well as tips and strategies to stabilize one's career and personal life during these uncertain times. All of our events are going to be posted on our Facebook fan page, so please click going when the event is available so that you won't miss it. And then furthermore, have you ever wondered what your life would be like if you had a personal Yoda to guide you? Join us to learn about the value of mentorship and how it can lead to more satisfying growth in your professional and personal life. Having a supportive, trusted mentor can provide a fulfilling experience for both mentee and mentor. Skilled professionals rely on a mentor's expertise and insight to guide them through difficult situations or utilizing the feedback given to improve their professional development. A mentor is like a trusted teacher who helps fill in the gaps missing from one's ongoing professional journey. We will also discuss the importance of communication and honesty as crucial values of a mentorship experience. We welcome you to join us for a panel discussion on the experiences of being both on the mentor and mentee side in Excel from previous and current Excel members. And in line with that, and as part of Excel's mission, we put together classes of mentees every year in hopes of energizing the careers and skill sets of up-and-coming leaders. This is with the help of our experienced mentors. We are launching an online mentoring program in the greater Phoenix area. This is a free program for our paid members with limited spots. You can build and adapt your skills in a constantly changing environment. The deadline for our mentorship application is on August 31st, 2020. This will be an 8-month program. If you're interested or have some questions, please email us at mentorship@excelleaders.org. This event is also available on our Facebook fan page for more information. And if you'd like to stay in the loop or be more involved with Excel, you're welcome to join us as a member. We have chapters in Phoenix, Southern California, San Jose, Las Vegas, as well as collegiate chapters with the University of Arizona and Arizona State University. The process to join is easy, and information on what membership can provide you with can be found on our website. Now, for all of you watching from Facebook, I'd like to thank you all for joining us this evening. We'd also like to thank those who have helped make this event possible, Jason Wong and connecting us with our guest speaker, Dr. Pham, Amanda and Faye, our event managers for event planning. Also, thank you to Matt and Betty for running the technical aspects of this event. And last but not least, we'd like to thank our guest speaker, Dr. Vu Pham, joining us from California. And with that, this concludes our evening. We hope to see you at our next online event. Until then, be well and be safe.